Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Living in Canada. I hope all of you are having a great day so far. So today I want to talk about the IELTS test and specifically about the academic versus the general IELTS test. So here are my IELTS test scores, both the academic and the general one, and these were taken about 2 years apart. And today, I'm not going to talk about the content of the test itself and not about any tips on how to take the test either, but I'm really going to focus on my scores today. And I'm also going to disclose to you my personal scores that I got for the academic versus the general IELTS test. So some of you might have already taken the IELTS test before. Perhaps you've taken the academic one or the general one, and now for some reason you have to retake the IELTS test again, but this time you have to take the other type of test. So if you've taken academic before, now you're taking general, or if you've taken general before, now you have to take the academic test, and you might have some worries about whether or not you'll get the same score, whether the test will be harder and you'll get a score that is lower, or you're hoping to get a higher score, etc. And maybe you're wondering in general, at least I really wondered, whether it really makes a difference or not, whether the academic and the general IELTS tests are really that different. So honestly, as I said before, I can't remember what the questions were and for each of the sections how different it was in terms of the structure and difficulty, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through my scores, and as far as I remember, I'm going to share with you what I think went different there or whether I felt it was actually just the same. So before I continue, in case you're new to this channel and you want to keep receiving videos about living in Canada or about moving to Canada, then be sure that you subscribe and also hit the little alarm bell so that YouTube will notify you once there is a new video from me. Okay, let's continue. So these are my IELTS scores. So these are the academic scores and these are the general scores, and here you can see the overall total score. So just to give you some context to this, I took the academic IELTS test when I was still in Jakarta, Indonesia, before I came to Canada. So I took it overseas, while I took the general test here in Canada, and I took it at one of those colleges that run the IELTS test. I think it was called Conestoga College here, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. So the point is that I took the academic test in Jakarta, Indonesia, and I took the general test here in Canada, in Toronto. And I also want to point out that both of these tests were paper-based tests. So meaning that you write your answers on paper and not typing them into a computer. So now let's look at the scores. So at first glance, you can notice right away that I got the exact same score for the academic IELTS test as well as for the general test, which was 8.5. So it didn't change at all. And as I told you before, the time frame between these tests were about 2 years. So let's go into each of the sections. So let's look at the listening scores. So when I took the academic test, I got a 9.0. And when I took the general test, I got an 8.5. So there's only a 0.5 difference in scores. So I don't think that I can attribute it to the fact that this was academic and this was general. So it might just be because of the questions that I got that day or something about my concentration level that day. So there isn't really much of a difference. And I also don't remember there being a significant difference in the level of difficulty in the test. So let's go into the reading score. So here you can also see that my reading score was exactly the same, which was 9.0. And I can also not remember that there was any significant difference in the level of difficulty. But it might be the case because both of these tests were paper-based. I got a totally different score when I took the computer-based test. And in case you're curious to know about that, about the computer-based test, then you might want to check out one of my other videos that I made on the computer-based IELTS test, which I will link up here for you. Now let's go on. What about the writing test? So here you can see I got the same score on my writing test as well, which is 7.5. So although the question, the topic, the theme, if you will, we needed to write about in the test was different, there wasn't really a difference in my score. And And the funny thing is that there wasn't even an improvement. I mean, I would have thought in the beginning that after 2 years, I would have seen a significant improvement in my writing skills. But perhaps because I haven't written enough and I haven't really practiced my writing skills, it turned out just the same. So let's go on. So now let's go to the speaking score. So here you can notice quite a difference. So when I took the academic test, I got 9.0 in Jakarta, Indonesia. And when I took the general test, I got an 8.0. So why is that? Honestly, I was really wondering what the reason for this was, because I would have thought that after moving to Canada, my speaking skills would have improved and I would have gotten at least the same score, right? But it turns out that that was not the case. In Jakarta, when I took the test, I got a 9.0, and here in Canada, on the general test, I got an 8.0. So I think that one thing that might have happened to me, and this is different for every person, of course, I am really influenced by the person that I'm talking to. So if I feel that the person is supportive and has a supportive tone, I feel that I speak better, if that makes sense. And on the contrary, if the person is maybe more cold, a bit closed off, then my speaking is not that great. I know it shouldn't be that way. I mean, in an ideal world, not. But imagine that you're in a test and maybe you're a bit tense about the result. You're just a bit nervous. Then that might affect you. But that's not to say that that's because this was in Canada and this was in Indonesia. Not at all. I mean, no matter where you take the test, there could be different kinds of people with different kinds of personalities interviewing you. So that is something that you really just can't control. But that aside, I think there might also be another reason. When I took the general test here in Canada, I was asked a question that I was totally not prepared for. It was something related to, I think, cultural experiences in Jakarta. And when I was asked at that point in time, I just couldn't think of an answer. Not because of my English skills, not because of my speaking skills per se, but because at that moment, nothing came to my mind. I just didn't know what to talk about. And I was very sparse when I was talking, and that didn't reflect really well during the speaking test. Yeah, so as you can see, my overall score remained the same. So I got an 8.5 before and an 8.5 after. So what does this mean? I think that there is no big difference between the academic test and the general test. Of course, in terms of topics that are included in the test and maybe even difficulty in some of the questions, there might be a difference. But overall, if you average everything out, you can see that my results were the same and there's no difference. So I think that in reality, during this 2-year time period, when I took the first and the second test, there was nothing significantly happening in my life that would have caused an improvement in any of my skills here, and that is why it remained the same. And if you do see like minor fluctuations in the score, it might have been because of something situational, because you happen to get a question that you just couldn't answer, or you lack concentration that day, or it could be a bunch of other things. But the point is here, my point here is that you shouldn't worry too much about it. I don't think that your score will change too much between taking the academic and the general test. What might be a bigger factor is whether you take the paper-based test or the computer-based test, because I think that some people might be more suitable to do the writing test. They just feel more comfortable writing on paper, reading on paper, whereas other people are more comfortable working on a computer. And as I told you before, I have another video about that you might want to check out if you are currently contemplating whether to take the computer-based or the paper-based test. So I hope that this could give you an overview about academic versus general, so don't worry too much about it. And by the way, if you enjoyed this video, if you think that you've gotten value out of this video, then don't forget to give it a like. And also, if you have any questions or comments, then please feel free to drop these in the comments below. I would really love to hear from you as well, what your plans are, whether you're planning to take the IELTS test, why, and so on. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.